Thank you, Rabbi Zemel. Temple Micah has been a longtime ally and partner of the New Israel Fund, and really when I came into this space, it felt cozy and like home. So thank you so much for hosting us. So my name is Tali Hershkowitz. I'm the Regional Director for the New Israel Fund in Washington, D.C. And for those of you who don't know NIF, we are the leading organization supporting and empowering the liberal pro-peace camp in Israel. Over the years, NIF has been at the forefront of many of Israel's most important struggles for equality, inclusion, and civil and human rights. We have been a loud voice against the occupation and for a thriving Israeli democracy. While I'm proud of everything NIF has done over the years, I have never been as proud or honored to be part of this organization as I am in this moment. In the past 14 months, thanks to the support of the growing community of donors around the world, NIF provided millions of dollars to help communities affected by the October 7th attack, including evacuees from the Gaza envelope, Bedouins living in unrecognized villages, and the Hostage Families Forum. We've enhanced our work to protect the rights of Palestinian citizens of Israel who are facing increased discrimination, funded efforts to promote solidarity between Jews and Arabs in Israel, and embarked on imagining and advancing a future of peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians at a time when it's absolutely necessary. In addition to all the amazing work NIF is doing in Israel, our community also stepped up and donated over $1 million for humanitarian relief in Gaza. Thank you. The total of what NIF has done since October 7 represents our humanistic values and deep commitment to the future of Israel, something that I think many of us in this room share. We come together at a time of immense pain and loss for Israelis and Palestinians. The heartbreaking reality demands not only our empathy, but also a deep commitment to envisioning a more just and peaceful future. At a time when we have so many reasons to feel despair and fear, our speaker today, Rabbi Dabush, chooses the path of action, hope, and solidarity. Rabbi Dabush is the director of Rabbis for Human Rights, a leading Israeli human rights organization guided by the core Jewish values of justice, dignity, and equality. Over the last 2 decades, he has been involved in and has led several social organizations and movements, including the Negev Council, the Movement for the Future of the Western Negev, and the Movement of the Peripheries, and was one of the leaders of the Equality March in 2016 and 2022. Rabbi Dabush is also a member of Kibbutz Nirim in the Gaza envelope and a survivor of the October 7th Hamas attack. Moderating our conversation is Rabbi Zemel, who many of you know, who has led this beautiful congregation for over 40 years. And in addition to his leadership here, Rabbi Zemel serves as the co-chair of the board of Trua, the Rabbinical for Human Rights, and is a member of NIF's International Council. Rabbi Zemel has been a steadfast friend and ally to Israel's social change movement, and I value and admire your ability to hold profound love for Israel while offering a thoughtful critique of practices that fall short of the values of justice and humanism. So thank you for hosting us and for leading today's conversation. I'll pass the mic to you.
Tali, you can come back and introduce me every week. Okay. Yeah, this is. I want to build Rabbi Dabush. First, I want to remind the Temple Micah people, because maybe a couple of people were on our 2017 trip where we met with you in Jerusalem. So this is my second time being able to be with Rabbi Dabush, who, when I met him 7 years ago, was Avi Dabush. And so yes, but you have now some letters before the Avi, but I want to welcome you again, and I want to continue the conversation in a sense that we began 7 years ago. But in order to kind of catch people here up a little bit, My opening question is, could you tell us a bit about your background, which we found fascinating 7 years ago, where you're from, where you grew up, kind of the pre-rabbi part of your life that led you to the kind of work you had, then eventually led you to decide to become a rabbi, those kinds of things that you think will help us get to know you a bit and what motivates you in the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's really important for us to be together in this time of deep darkness. As a rabbi, now as a rabbi, I will start with a story that goes with me in the last days, which I guess some of you know, you should know it, from the Talmud, from Avodah Zarah, Masechet Avodah Zarah, which is a story about the first people ever to celebrate Hanukkah. You know who they are? It's Adam and Eve. And the story is really interesting because the story is about the first time that they experience winter outside of Eden, like the natural flow of the seasons. And the days become shorter and shorter, and the light vanish and more dark. And then they think that this is the end of the world. This is a one-way ticket, you know, for the end of the world. There will be no light. There will be no world as they know it. And then they are starting, like we are in a religious story, so they think that they had the sins and so on. So I would leave it aside. But one day, maybe it was 22 of December, they started to feel or to see that the light is coming back again. And then they understood that it's not the end of the world, and they made a celebration of 8 days. And this is the base of Hanukkah, according to this story, of course. And I thought that we can look at this story as a children's story. Like, it's really nice. It's one time in history that it can happen, of course. But maybe I feel, I will talk about myself, I feel that we are in times like this, that the darkness become more and more evident and powerful, and there is less and less light. And maybe I understand, or we understand logically, that there are times like this and there are times like that, and we, of course, as Jewish people or as human beings, had very dark times, and we prevail. But that's the logic aspect. But in a way, I'm really worried, and a lot of people in Israel are worried, and I know that you are too. And this is, there is another pasuk, sorry, about the rabbinical stuff, of Joseph. We will read it, I guess, in a week or two. Et achai anochi mevakesh, when he's looking for his brothers, although he knows that they hate him and they want to harm him and so on. But it's beautiful Hebrew. Et achai anochi mevakesh. And in a way, I feel like that I see my brothers and sisters, and since October 7th, we felt it more and more. I will, in a minute, will tell about October 7th, but we so many people that came from here to support us, or support us from your places, and really was worried, didn't slept in the night, and I was in Australia and in the UK and now in the US, and that's amazing. It's not something that we can think it's a very simple thing. I will say a few words about myself. I was born and raised in Ashkelon. I was born in '76 in a right-wing family, religious Orthodox family, Mizrahi-oriented, from Libya and Syria. And I was part of the religious Zionism in Israel and Bnei Akiva. My first rabbi was Rabbi Chaim Druckmann. I don't know if you know him, but he was one of the leading rabbis, maybe the leader rabbi of the settler movements and the religious Zionism in Israel. Actually, unfortunately, in my perspective, supporting Smotrich in his last years. He passed away 2 years ago. And again, I was part of this youth movement, Bnei Akiva, but also the project, the political project of Bnei Akiva. Another aspect in my life when I was a kid was that Gaza was our big city. Ashkelon was much smaller. If you know the area, Ashkelon is the most southern city on the seashore of Israel. It's like Tel Aviv, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, something like 8 or 9 kilometers from Gaza. Ashkelon was much smaller. Gaza was open to us. We didn't saw, most of the Israelis didn't saw yet the occupation, the power relations, and so on. Each day, a lot of people from Gaza came out in order to work in our fields and build our houses, all in all the area, Ashkelon, Sderot, the kibbutzim, but also in the center of Israel. And we went inside. My father used to serve in the army for many years, and he was based in Gaza, but also regular people from Ashkelon, Sderot, and the area went to the market, went to the beach, went to the dentist, went to the garage. When I'm telling that to my children, of course, they think that we were crazy. They can't understand this reality because they just know the reality of war. In '93, I had some kind of a shift. It began when I was, of course, as a part of Bnei Akiva, part of the demonstrations against the Oslo Accord and the Oslo Agreement, the first Oslo Agreement with the Rabin government. And after a few weeks and months, I started to feel, and this is always about feelings, that it's not my right place in the right wing. Because it was very violent, like we know it all the justice and the truth is on our side. We know exactly what it means to be Jewish and to be patriots and Zionists and so on. And the other camp, of course, Rabin and his government, but also all the supporters forgot what it means to be Jews, what it means to be Zionist and so on. And the second thing was that there was no alternative. As a kid, again, I saw the Palestinians, so I asked my friends and leaders of the campaign, okay, I understand that the Oslo Agreement have a lot of problems, and of course it wasn't perfect, but what do you suggest? There are people that want their freedom, as we did, as a lot of nations and people did. What do we suggest? And usually the answer was there isn't any Palestinian people, and just go in the line and walk with us and don't ask questions. And I didn't like it. I will jump, and that started, of course, a process that at the end I found myself in another place politically, and in a way in another place religiously, or in the place that I had or have with Judaism. I will jump to 2008. I moved with my family to the Gaza envelope, to Kibbutz Borchail. By the way, it's the last settlement of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, which is a great model, I believe, for all of us. So I'm proud of it. And then I moved to Sderot for 6 years. And in the last years, as you mentioned, I'm in Kibbutz Nirim. Kibbutz Nirim is on the border of Gaza, less than 2 kilometers from Khan Yunis. It has a great place in the Zionist story of the Negev, one of the 11 points that was established in 1946 in one night in order to get a grasp of the Negev, for the yet to become the Jewish state, and also fought in the independence war. And on October 6th last year, we were celebrating the kibbutz anniversary, 77 years. So most of the people of the kibbutz were in the kibbutz, and also a lot of visitors. And in the morning of October 7th, you know the story, I won't go into details. So around 6:30, we started to hear the alarms. I was with my wife and her children, 12 and 15. My children, thanks God, were in Borchail. Again, it's part of Gaza envelope, but it's 7 kilometers from the border. So the Hamas soldiers or terrorists didn't get into Borchail that day. After around 5 minutes, we started to hear gun shooting, and after another 5 minutes, we understood that there are a lot of terrorists, Nukhba, Hamas soldiers, call them the way you want, inside of the kibbutz. We were the first kibbutz in our area that they get inside because it's very close to Khan Yunis. Our neighbor in kibbutz is Kibbutz Nir Oz, unfortunately got very famous, 5 meters from us, and the other way is Ena Shlosha. So that started a very long day, more than that, 36 hours that we were in shelters. First 8 hours without no army in our home shelter. And then the army came, and still we were for many hours in our home shelter. And then in the night, they moved us to a community shelter. That was, of course, kind of a very, very difficult night. It was just to see the faces of everyone. You understood that you have the same face, and to start to get the news about people from Nirim. 5 people got murdered in a community of 400 people. 5 people were kidnapped. 3 of them came back in the last and only deal a year ago, and 2 unfortunately stayed in Gaza. In June, in the last June, we got the news that they were murdered in Gaza. Just now, 2 weeks ago, we got the report. So they were murdered in February because of the attack of the IDF. The IDF didn't know exactly where they are and attacked the area accidentally. And on August, we got their bodies. Yegev Burshtav and Nadav Popolwell, and buried them in Nirim. The community moved in on October 8th. On Sunday afternoon, we left the kibbutz with the military, of course, helping us and evacuating us to Eilat. We were in Eilat for 4 months in the same hotel. It was, of course, not so easy for us as a family. I was with my wife, sorry, in one floor. It's in a small room, and my children in another floor, and her children in another floor. So we decided, and Kibbutz Nirim is a strong community. We decided that we have to find another place. We understood that it's not a thing that we used to. It's the 7th or 8th time that we are evacuating. So usually it's between 2 weeks to 2 months. In 2014, it was 2 months. So we decided to move to Be'er Sheva. In November, we got a decision. We moved in February, and we're still in Be'er Sheva. We're still displaced. We are one of 10 places in the Gaza envelope that the army doesn't allow us still to come back because we are too close to the border. And that is generally my story. I will talk about RHR, of course, in a minute.
Thank you. Could you share your thoughts about, this is a huge question and I want to make it digestible, how your work has changed in the last year plus, since October 7th, and at the different stages. It's, I mean, and perhaps most recently with the goings-on in Syria, how your view of the country's response has evolved over the period of the last 13 or 14 months, and how that has influenced your work. And if you could include in that, in your response also, because we know about the work that you are doing on the West Bank. This is not a Gaza-only story. It's expanded to the entire boundaries around all of Israel. So I'm asking you a lot, and take your time.
Definitely. In the first week that we were evacuated, or in the first week of the war, on Monday I came to Eilat with my children. By the way, it was one of the horrible rides ever. It's something like 3 or 4 hours to Eilat. And my older son, he was in 12th grade, and all the way he got messages and news about his friends, like he's telling us, Agam from my school was murdered with all her family. After that, we found out that she was kidnapped, and she came back. The Kutz family from Kfar Aza, that I used to play soccer with them, they all got murdered. My Bible teacher is missing from Be'eri. And after that, we found out that she was murdered. And like every 10 minutes, he got this kind of a message. And of course, he's a teenager. So I asked him, what's going on? How do you feel? No, I'm okay. It's okay. Only now he's starting to understand that he needs some kind of help. So that was on Monday. On Tuesday, we have the first meeting of RHR. We had a Zoom meeting with the staff and the board members. And we understood that our instinct, of course, mine and my family, but also others, was to close down and just protect our family, our children, ourselves, and so on. But we need to do the opposite. Actually, we need to do much more than we did before October 7th. We started by asking our partners, what do you need? And it started in the West Bank. We are working all those years. Rabbis for Human Rights was established in the first Intifada around 88. And that was the core issue of those rabbis from all streams that founded Rabbis for Human Rights. So we ask our partners in the West Bank, what's going on? What do you need? Farmers, shepherds, communities, little communities in danger. And they said that right now we need the basic things. We need food, we need medical aid. The situation, of course, in Gaza was much worse and still. But in the West Bank also, it's still, but it was much worse at the beginning. In the first few weeks, more than 20 people got killed from settlers' gun shooting. There is a phenomenon still that settlers are now in uniforms and with guns because they are part of the reserve soldiers that, of course, it's making it very difficult to stop them. The army then closed all the villages, even the small ones, so they couldn't even move in the West Bank. And of course, they couldn't get into Israel still. Most of them don't have permits to work in Israel, which was the essential thing that they were doing for their job. So we started as a human rights organization, and of course we are still, but then we did humanitarian work. We just got organized with other organizations. The peak was in the Ramadan. We led a coalition of 17 organizations and start helping with medical aid and food. So that was in the West Bank, and we understood some weeks after that we need to do more of what we are doing. So what we are doing basically called protective presence, which means that we are going, for example, our big annual campaign is the Olive Harvest campaign. We just finished it 2 weeks ago. So I would give an example, a village named Burin. It's near Nablus. It's a big village, around 6,000 people. It's in a beautiful valley. One hill, it's Itzhar, one of the violent settlements. Of course, the settlements from the international eyes are not legal, but in Israeli eyes, it's a legal settlement. In another hill, there is Givat Ronen, which is illegal outpost also in the eyes of Israel, but it's 20 years there, and now, of course, they are trying to make it legal. One of the violent place, of course, in Israel, I don't know, maybe on earth, because just for example, a few months ago, 4 women from Rahat, which is the biggest Arabic town in Israel, a Bedouin town in the Negev, they wanted to come to Nablus and they lost their way, and they came, I don't know how, to Givat Ronen, which include a baby, 2 years ago, 2 years old, and they got beaten. Like they were a few days in the hospital, and they ruined their car and so on. And after that, on Monday, it was on Saturday, on Shabbat Kodesh. And on Sunday, one of the Knesset members of Ben Gvir's party, she said that she understood them because maybe they are spies or they didn't know who those women are. So that's the place that we are living. So we did much more from October 7th, doubled and more than that, protective presence with, again, the farmers from Nablus area to South Hebron Hills area, shepherds, especially in the Jordan Valley, in the north part of the Jordan Valley, and also helping a lot of small communities that they are in danger, like people attacking them every day. We are calling it basically Jewish terror because it's really important to understand that there is Jewish roots to that. And I'm not arguing that my Judaism is the only Judaism, maybe unfortunately, but this is the way very vast and big cultures and religions are. You can find anything, of course. So they are coming from the hills, usually masked with stones or guns and so on, and they are holding the values of Judaism. So for us, it's really important to be there and to stop them and to stop the violation of human rights, and actually do something like, if I'm taking the olive tree, for example, of course it's a symbol in our culture, it's a symbol of peace, but also it's a thing, very essential thing in the Middle East. And for many families and communities in the West Bank, it used to be the time that they are going outside to nature and pick olives together, and this is big part of their economy. So this campaign we gained, and it was really amazing because our target was 300 volunteers, and we succeeded in bringing more than 1,000 volunteers to more than 30 days in the field, again, from the north to the South Hebron Hills, and helping a lot, more than 40 farmers and more than 20 villages. So this is the West Bank. I will just name quickly what else we do. We are working inside of Israel with people who live in poverty, Jews and Arabs. We have a Right Center in Hadera. And after October 7th, again, we asked them what's going on. And they said, we have new problems. Of course, they have problems all day long and all year long. So now there are cuts of electricity. Now we lost our job because it's near the border, but it's not the formal line. Like in the north, it was 6 kilometers. So if I'm 6.5, I can't get any support from the government, but I lost my job because the businesses was closed and so on. So we are working privately with those people and families, but also working with the Knesset and the government in order to change policy, and sometimes we are succeeding. Only this week we had a full day in the Knesset on the Human Rights International Day on December 10th. That deals with poverty, like all the committees of the Knesset and dealt with those issues, and we have like special conference about it. We also have interfaith work, and after October 7th, again, it became bigger. The leaders that we are working with, Muslims and Christians and Jewish, asked us to do more, to pray more, to march more, to try to be active more. We are trying to focus on interfaith activism because it's really important to pray and to sing and to gather together and to learn text from all cultures. But there are a lot of people, not a lot, but enough people that are doing that in Israel. We are trying to do like praying with our feet, like activism. So for example, we had this June, in Jerusalem, 2 days before the Jerusalem Day, we had a march with hundreds of people with leaders from all faith. And that was really important. It was for peace and human rights. Because, you know, in the Jerusalem Day, and I used to be part of it, of course, in Bnei Akiva, there is the flag march inside of the Muslim quarter with a lot of hate songs and like a very heavy vibe of like Jewish supremacy and occupation and so on. It became kind of a symbol for that. And we really dream that our march will become bigger, and that will be the thing that people talking about and coming. And the last project that we have is the education project. We are working with more than 1,000 young people before their army service in the pre-military academies. So again, after October 7th, a lot of those academies are in the borders, like on the north or in the Gaza envelope and so on. So we adapt ourselves into the places that they went, and actually we doubled the courses and the lessons. We essentially talking about the Declaration of Independence. We are taking that, like the Zionist basic values, and teaching that with Jewish text and universal text, and also going to the field to see for ourselves the issues, not only about the Palestinians or poverty, but also LGBTQ and gender and asylum seekers and the unrecognized villages in the Negev and so on. So, sorry, I came sick from Israel. So we did much more from October 7th. In a way, for me, I keep asking myself, is it healthy to do it? Like after 2 days, not grieving, not be preoccupied with myself and my family and so on, but to do those things. And I guess my answer is yes. This is a way to get healed. Like find out, it's even a community thing, you know. I guess you are doing that. Find out who's in need right now. Sometimes I'm more in need, but most of the time I have people that are more in need than I. So I will find them. For example, I took upon myself to be the coordinator in the kibbutz for the families of the people that got murdered and the hostages. So they, of course, obviously were and still in great need. And in a way that helps. And we feel that, of course, we didn't stop the occupation. We didn't do such great things, but we helped so many people. It's like another drop and another drop, and like my story, the light doesn't come one day, there is only light and so on, but another day, a minute more and a minute more, and we hope that we will see a bigger light soon.
Thank you. Israel is a very hard country to understand, and I go there a lot, and sometimes I feel like the more I'm there, the less I understand it. Oh yeah. By the way, we're going to be passing out cards for those of you who want to be able to write down a question. We'll be collecting them, and so Tali's going to begin passing around. If you need a pencil, we can offer you a pencil as well, and we'll be collecting those, and we'll be taking some questions in about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll see how well we're doing here. You described how in the years after 1993, for yourself personally, you began a journey. Became pivotal to your life journey of going from B'nai Akiva, which is a youth movement. It's a social, religious, political movement of the Orthodox, and
also a political project,
yeah.
A very big and influential political project.
So Rabbi Dabush went from a person of the right to being clearly a leader of the left. And you're one person, but this is critical to who you've become. This journey going from philosophically one place to another. For those of us who watched October 7th, I thought in the days afterwards, and then in the months afterwards when I was there, certainly this kind of, and not to use you as an example, something is going to take root in a large part of the population of Israel, that the answer with the Palestinians cannot simply be, metaphorically speaking, building a bigger wall, having a bigger army, that repression, pressure, simply doesn't work, because it'll produce yet another explosion, the way October 7th was an explosion. From across the ocean, that kind of thinking, what I'm describing, which kind of was for you a story of 30 years ago, that has not seemed to be taking root very much. And I wonder if you could just speculate about that, not as an activist, but as an Israeli, a rabbi, a person who's of the land, who lives in the land, who talks with everybody from all sides. Certainly you still have friends who are from B'nai Akiva.
My family.
Yeah, exactly. So describe that path, and just respond to my, yeah.
So I want to say first that maybe you are asking yourself, and maybe you want to ask me about my, like, it's for some people they don't understand how from being survivor of this terrible massacre and so on, in a day or two, I'm putting all my resources to help the Palestinians. And I want to comment on that. On the second week of the war, there was a call from our partners abroad to be part of a call for ceasefire. And I must say I was in a kind of a split. As a father, it's hard to me, I can't really take my children again to the border of Gaza if Hamas will be on the border. But I said yes. I said the organization really should carry that voice, that human rights voice. And of course, war, it's terrible for everyone. And it will be terrible for us. And of course, we saw it, and we are still seeing that. So in a way, I'm always saying that I have all the voices inside myself, the voice of revenge and despair and anger and so on. It's not something that I can't understand, but we are saying in our tradition, הנה אנוכי נותן לפניך את החיים ואת המוות ובחרת בחיים. There is life and death. Choose life, like it's a recommendation. Choose life. So we need to choose. After what we are feeling, and there is such a range of feelings, I guess for every Israeli, and maybe also for you, from October 7th, and you don't know really what to feel, and of course you can't fight it. You can't fight those feelings, but you need to choose. So about the Israeli society, I want to say that it seems, as you mentioned, that it seems to a lot of people, also including in Israel, that the big majority are against diplomatic solution, against peace, just wanting to invest more and more power in now conquering Gaza and Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and the whole Middle East. One day we feel like it's a catastrophic defeat, and one day we feel we are the strongest people on earth. But we can see on polls that this is not the reality. This is maybe the voice, the louder voice of the people that shout. And maybe a lot of people are fearful of having another voice. I will tell you a small story. In Tisha B'Av, in last Tisha B'Av, I was in Ramat Gan. There was a big conference, around 150 people, with Aliza Bloch, if you know, and other people. And then, and you can, now you know that I'm really gentle, and I talked about my story. And then I said something about the children of Gaza, that we need to have responsibility and to see what is happening. You know, now we are talking about more than 20,000 women and children that got killed in Gaza. So even if you think we have to do it, we have to be responsible and at least know it. And then 4 people stood up and started to shout on me. Actually, they shouted, "You don't know what they did, the Hamas, they raped us." I said, I know what they did, I was there. But okay, it's okay for the argument, and it's okay to have emotions. But then, when we finished, around 10 people came really quietly and said, like, kol hakavod, it's very good what you said and so on. They were afraid to speak up. They were afraid to say, no, we are not thinking that. It's not only it's okay, but it's also important to talk about the children of Gaza. So I guess this is the atmosphere now in Israel. And in a way, for you also, it is part of, as Tali started and maybe you started, part of loving Israel. I'm a Zionist. I wasn't there in Gaza enveloped by accident. I can see my role there, and I will continue being in the Negev and in the south and in the Gaza envelope. But I have much more than critique about the Israeli government and the way, the vision that people are trying to sell us. The only vision right now is we must use force and we must use violence, and this is the only way in our tough neighborhood. And for me, this is even more important than the physical war. Like, it's a war on our values. It's like throwing away all those thousands of years of wonderful culture and religion that have so much more, like we just saw with Abraham, hospitality and arguing with God against collective punishment, and Jacob again in this Saturday that is praying to not to be killed, but also he doesn't want to kill, and the prophets and the Declaration of Independence that talks really about peace and equality and our place inside the Middle East as part of the flourishment of the Middle East. This is our values. I didn't invent that. This is part of the mainstream of Judaism, part of the mainstream of Zionism. And right now, there is a big conflict about it, and the loudest people and more, unfortunately, sharp and clear, that has a lot of influence inside of the government, and I guess inside of Israel, are the voices that push for like throwing it all away in order just to use force. And God is with us, like God is walking with us, and is just want us to kill everyone. And Smotrich just said that half of the people of Gaza shouldn't be there. I don't know how it will happen. So this is really dangerous, and we have a role in that, not only to be like at the edge of the politics and Israeli society and having that nice voice of hugging Palestinians or something like that. No, we are a very essential alternative, and we must, at the end, take the lead in Israel.
Several people have written the question I'm going to ask you now in different forms. What do you think is the most effective way that American Jews can support Israel? And what do you think, if anything, American Jews should refrain from doing? And if there are any particular organizations that you'd like to mention as part of your answer in terms of organizations that you see that American Jews can support, please mention those as well.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of times people asking that, and beside money. So I want just to say money is important. And of course, we as Rabbis for Human Rights need money, and we will use it, and with your help, and we will be transparent about it, and come and be with us. We will use it in the field. But we just spoke when a few days ago, when I still was in Israel, that you mentioned the trip you had in 2017, which is really important. A lot of Jewish people from the US are coming to Israel in a lot of ways, like private ways and communities and programs and so on. And most of them doesn't know and doesn't see the things for real. And I just want to mention again, we are in the field every time of year. Like now we finished the olive harvest campaign. We are going with shepherds those 2 weeks, and at the end of December we will start planting. And we have material here about planting, which is kind of, you can do it for Tu B'Shvat or Bar Mitzvah or whatever. And we want you to come with us, to see for yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be like you agree 100% with what I'm saying or Rabbis for Human Rights or the NIF is saying, but just come and see. Most of Israelis doesn't see those things, and this is part of what is allowing them to run from responsibility. The idea of Netanyahu for many years was to managing the conflict, kind of a status quo. We are not seeing that. From time to time there is terror. Of course, in our place for 23 years, more than that, there was a war, but we are not a lot of people, 50,000, something like that, including Sderot. But for all of us, it's okay, and we can ignore what is happening there. And then when there is, again, the olive harvest campaign and more than 1,000 people coming, I want just to mention Carmel Gat, that she used to come every year. She was murdered in Gaza, in a very famous occasion of the 6 people that was murdered in the end of August. And she came every year to the olive harvest campaign, and this is really important for us as supporting her way and the way of others like Vivian Silverman, Chaim Perry, and other dear friends and partners. So I guess for me, this is one thing that you can do and influence. I know that this community does that. But if you can influence another communities, another programs, another schools, or I don't know, the way that you are coming, and even, again, private people that are coming as a family, coming to Israel, take only one day. Don't take all your days, only one day, and come with us to the field and see for yourself. This is really important.
I'm going to read this question, this card, and then I'm going to, of course, expand on it. But I just love the way this was framed, so thank you to the person who wrote this. After October 7th, I read your Facebook posts. Thank you for those. You ended each one with the words, "I believe." Please explain why. And I think the person who wrote this question, in terms of please explain why, can you tell us how your Judaism, your Jewish faith, your Jewish, what's inside of you, how that shapes your work, how that nourishes your soul? And then how do you engage in conversation with other rabbis who think so differently about these huge moral questions than you do?
So I will start with saying that we have more than 160 rabbis, Israeli rabbis that are official members of the organization, which is really important, and it's a lot in Israel. And we want to gain more, of course, in the next year. So we are not alone, of course. Those words, ani ma'amin. So, of course, it comes from my religious background. We used to sing every day, ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema beviat HaMashiach. And this idea of Messiah, in Israel, my camp, my liberal left wing and so on camp, used to be, of course, against it and saying Smotrich and other people are believing in the Messiah in a way that is really dangerous, and I believe in that. But also this idea in Judaism, it's an idea of a better future. And I don't want to give up and to give them the privilege to have custody on that, to have it's their own. We must again have a vision. And I must say very personally, there is a saying of a famous singer, Meir Ariel. in Israel, אדם צועקת שחסר לו. Someone screams what is in need and missing. So in a way, I guess it started like that, because it was really hard to believe after October 7th or during October 7th. Leah Goldberg, Israeli, very famous Israeli poet, she wrote, למי שאינו מאמין קשה לחיות השנה. To the non-believers, it's hard to live this year. I guess for the believers, it's also hard to believe this year, this year, but there is something about it that we, I guess all of us here believe, and I'm not talking about believing in God, I'm talking about believing in the future, believing in the people and the kindness that there is in people, believing that we can change, we can repair. So those are kind of beliefs that I want to share, and of course I want us to be together in that. And again, if we are in time of darkness, it's really, really important, as the Hasidic story is, that I'm in the dark and looking for a way, and I'm seeing someone, and I think maybe he will help me, and he's saying, I lost my way. So now we can look for a way together, and this is really important, of course. So אני מאמין in that, אני מאמין in people, אני מאמין in peace, אני מאמין in justice and human rights and so on.
Thank you for that. That was thank you. What do you say when you're in this country? What do you say to young American Jews, American Jewish students? You've certainly read about what's going on in university campuses across our country. Those who think that Israel has violated Jewish values, the values that you believe in. And these young people, as this questioner wrote down, kind of summarizing, these young people here who are far away, but like your own children, have never seen peace in Israel. So what do you say to them? What do you say to them?
I guess I feel that I must be humble, and you are the people that must say something to your children, but I can only tell that I met a group of Jewish students in Columbia University this Friday, around 30 people or more, and that was really interesting. And I guess for some of them it was hard to hear that I told them that I'm a Zionist. And of course, I don't believe in kind of Zionism of Ben Gvir and Smotrich, but I don't want to give up about my Zionism. But I guess most of them really not only respected that, but relate to that you can have a complex conversation. Like, again, as we mentioned, you can love Israel and really believe in the Declaration of Independence, and on the other hand, pushing for a Palestinian country and human rights for Palestinians, and there is a saying in the Torah, "Lo tuchal להתעלם," you can't ignore. So I'm always saying you can't ignore what happened on October 7th, and you can't ignore our hostages. Now hundreds of our brothers and sisters are there in the tunnels of Hamas. Now 435 days. It's terrible. But you also can't ignore what happened in Gaza, the starvation, the killing, the ruins, what former IDF, how do you call it, the head of the IDF called ethnic cleansing in the north of Gaza. So you can't ignore that. You can't say, no, I'm only focusing on the Israelis. Actually, a lot of people are saying that. And again, I can understand. They said, I have no empathy to those Palestinians. For me, all those people in Gaza are terrorists. As far as I'm concerned, they can run away or get killed or whatever. But again, I really feel that it's against our interest. It's not about being moral and I'm more than other people and more beautiful and like having those feelings about the Palestinians and so on, I think that we will ruin ourselves if we will ignore what is happening in Gaza, and we will ignore what this coalition tries to do. It's like, for me, it's like in the family or community, it's bullying. Like those people that really use violence. Also against Netanyahu in many ways. Don't get confused. Ben Gvir does it very effectively. We need to stand up and stop that. That's the only way. And of course, there is prices to that, but much bigger prices if we don't speak up.
My friend here, Tali, was whispering in my ear. We have time for 2 more questions, I think. And because we're on the same wavelength, the next question is going to be one that I was going to ask. Because a couple of people have asked this, I think I'm only going to speak for myself. I love hearing you talk. You speak to us like what I will call a classic Zionist from Ben Gurion, with a vision for peace and a vision for Israel to be part of a family of nations in the Middle East. Several people have asked questions on the cards. How do you think about or respond to others who want to see a binational state, a joint confederation, have a different view of Israel? I would say perhaps even a non-Zionist view of the future. What are your thoughts about this kind of approach for the future?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm not objective. I have interest because my family came from Libya and Syria, so I want to come back and see where my family grows. You know, the first thing that my mother, and she used to vote for Shas, right-wing Haredi party for many, many years. The first thing that she wrote in our WhatsApp group after what happened in Syria, maybe it's the time that we could visit in Damascus. And I want to say that I'm part of the Confederation movement, actually one of the founders of Land for All. And I think, I believe that we must think in another way about the conflict. It's a two-state solution. But at the end, it's open borders, like the European Union. And the ideas that were like the engine for Oslo agreement and Rabin was the kind of, for me, a fantasy of separation. Like, I can't see it in reality. We live together, it's a shared homeland from the river to the sea, so we must find a way to live together. So this is this kind of between one-state solution and two-state solution with kind of an open borders. But the most important thing is not that there is a miracle or like a magical way to solve the conflict. The important thing is that we have to think differently, and we have to talk, because in Land for All, by the way, it's there is a Palestinian part and Israeli part, like the model, of course. So this is really important, because when we analyze what happened, for example, in Camp David with Arafat and Ehud Barak, and after that with Ehud Olmert and Abu Mazen, most of the time the Palestinians are saying, you didn't talk with us, like you had your own vision and solution, and you just came and said, sign that. And it's not the way that we can resolve this conflict. Actually, I'm really optimistic about it. At the end, we will find a way to live together. This is flash news. At the end, we will find a way to live together from the river to the sea. The only question, of course, it's how much blood and time it will take. And this is where our leaders, or we as leaders in the civil society, in the politics sphere and so on, must step up and have this vision. I have actually, it's a crazy vision, but a vision of a union of the Middle East. And of course, it was crazy in Europe in the 40s. Nobody thought about it. I really believe that we can work together, and I really want to have, and of course right now it sounds naive, and it is naive, it's okay to be naive, again, as a Jew, as waiting for the Messiah, waiting for a time that we can walk with our fellows, the Syrians and people from Lebanon and Jordan and Egypt and more than that. And maybe there will be a day.
I think you just answered also the last question I was going to ask, but I'll just, if there's anything else that you want to add, our last question was going to be, what sustains you in this work? And it sounds to a certain extent, it's like your commitment to this vision is what sustains you. If you want to add any more thoughts, what sustains you?
Yeah, the answer is really clear, but I'm just trying to, I have my wife in my head, and she's incredible. Like in the night of October 7th, when we were in the shelter, she's in charge of the evacuation of Nirim every time, like it's the 8th time or something like that. And she was preoccupied with the list of people who wants to go where, and talking with the hotel and that was amazing. And then they said, okay, you have to lead the community, because she had another job and she didn't want to do it. She did it after Protective Edge, after 2014, and this is really hard to do. By the way, in Protective Edge, in the last day, 2 of the kibbutz members were killed by a rocket in the last hours, like two hours before the ceasefire. So it was devastating for the community. So, but again, she had to do it. She had to lead the community to Beersheba and all this process. And then she left in August. And then she just left it all and went to India for a few weeks. And that's amazing for me. It's we as men, maybe we can't really make those processes and understand fully what we should do in terms of emotional healing and so on. So I need to sustain myself also in those ways, but right now I don't, unfortunately. But again, there is a nice short poem that I took like in the first days of the war, and I will try to translate it. It's when I'm inside the sea and suffocating and drowning, don't try to tell me try to swim or something like that. Just describe the land. So this is for me the thing that should sustain us. We need to describe the land that we want to go to. And if we don't have this kind of land, of course, it doesn't mean anything if we go each way, like Lewis Carroll wrote. So when I think about my children and grandchildren maybe going to Damascus or living happily and in a sustainable way in Israel and lives in Gaza envelope. And there is a very nice song, it's the peace song of Nirim. Nobody knows it except the people in Nirim. It's not the peace song. And every Independent Day, it started in Nirim with singing this song. So this song is amazing. It was wrote in 1956, and it's about peace between Nirim and Khan Yunis. We are not talking about the big peace. We will stop using our guns and so on, and we will go to Khan Yunis, we will watch a movie, we will go to the beach together, we will talk about agriculture. It's an area of agriculture, and it's such a wonderful thing, like just being a neighbor. Forget for a minute the big process and reconciliation and so on. Let's be good neighbors. So this kind of ideas really sustain me.
I want to truly thank you for being our guest at Temple Micah. I hope you come back when you'll keep us on your list when you're at Washington, D.C. again. And before, I want to thank all of you for being here, and I'm going to turn things over once again to Tali, who will send us on our way.
Thank you, Danny. And I do want to say it's apparently Avi's first time in Washington, D.C., which I had no idea before I saw you today. So we're really honored to have you here with us. So this is the first public speaking event he has ever done in D.C. Is at your temple.
We'll put up a plaque.
So really, thank you, and thank you, Temple Micah, for hosting us. I want to thank all the NAF supporters in the room, and I know there are many, and our local council member and international council members that are in the room. And thank you, Avi, Rabbi Dabush, for reminding us that we must continue the fight for justice, equality, and dignity for all, especially at the most difficult and painful time. Thank you for demonstrating that the conflict is not a zero-sum game of being either pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, and that we should envision a future where both people live in security and peace. As an Israeli myself, I view your action not only as brave, but as patriotic. So at the moment when we get accused sometimes, thank you. And I do want to say we just hosted a Standing Together, an organization that many of you may know, in Baltimore, and we're accused of being anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. And I am reminded at this moment that there is no better way to show love and support for Israel than a way of envisioning a future of our people not having to live on our swords, like Bibi likes to say, but rather living in peace. So Avi, along with so many activists and organizations in the NAF family, are committed to this future. And again, we will continue. We'll continue fighting and have that kind of, I learned so much from you today and that vision of the land that we will swim to. While it can feel that the discourse around the conflict is polarized, I can share that thousands of new supporters joined NAF since October 7th, and that our community has never been more resolute, and that our events have never been so well attended. And I think today is a testament to that. The New Israel Fund community and our grantees, like Rabbis for Human Rights, have been a source of light and hope for me personally during these dark times. If you too have been overwhelmed by this darkness, please join us in support of the New Israel Fund, in support of Rabbis for Human Rights. There's literature when you exit. And if today's conversation resonated with you, please join us. I would love to speak with you, our regional council members, if you can raise your hands. Two are here, and NAF supporters, longtime supporters that are happy to speak on behalf of NAF are here as well, so please find us. Thank you again for hosting us, Danny. And I hope to see you again at our future events.